lovely good morning to you, the Camnet TV viewers. This is the breakfast show on a Friday where we feed on nothing but what is happening in the business sector around the country. This is your host, Prudence Chota, and I'm so excited this morning. If you can see my mood and my vibe today, it's quite different because on set, I am not alone for the first time in a long time. I am joined by my colleague who will of course say good morning to you and just introduce himself. My colleague, good morning and welcome to the program, to the show.
Thank you very much. Good morning and good morning to our viewers out there. It's a pleasure to be back on Camnet TV Breakfast this morning. Of course, we're looking up to an exciting show. So just keep watching and also tell other people to join us this morning.
They would want to know, who are you?
Oh yeah, I'm making a second appearance on the show. I should mention that I did appear on Wednesday.
Okay.
I made my first appearance, but for those who are watching us for the first time, I'm Afias Kaptula. I'm going to be featuring on one of the shows in the week.
Of course, he is my colleague, Mr. Afias Kaputula. If you don't know him, you just hear your voice. At least you can now attach, the voice to the picture. I think I meet a lot of people Afias who usually tell me that she'll say, oh, you are Prudence Chota. It's actually good to attach your face to your voice. Oh, yeah. People just hear your voice and they've been wondering, this guy, how does he look like? Yeah, of course, if you're watching the breakfast show this morning, wherever you're watching us from, on your gadget, on different platforms, we are live here in studio at Camnet Television. But you too also will be given a chance to be part of the conversations that we'll be having this morning. Among them, you can send us text messages via the numbers that are on the screen, or you can call us using the same numbers that are on the screen, and we'll be able to pick your call and have your contribution be heard, given a chance or an opportunity to air some of those most of the time when we say air, we say grievances, but it's not always that they are grievances.
They are also views.
Yeah, views and contributions. Yes. Yeah, of course. So many things lined up, and of course we are also expecting a guest where we will be discussing a wonderful topic. So don't go away, just stay tuned, keep watching Camnet TV, keep enjoying Mr. Afias and Prudence's company. And right about now also we are going to just go into the health corner just to see what the doctors have for us this morning. Remember, the health corner is not a diagnosis but just a tip of how you can go about identifying some conditions and of course living a normal life on a day-to-day condition, day-to-day life, or if you have a particular condition. So let's just see what the doctors have for us this morning.
Hi, good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakubiana Mfaya. So this week we have been talking about alcoholic liver disease, and it's a condition that is affecting many people, and many people don't even know that they have alcoholic liver disease. There is a rise in consumption, heavy excess or heavy alcohol intake in our country. So many people are abusing alcohol, not only the elderly or the adults, but even the younger people, the children, the teenagers, they are also abusing alcohol. So it's important that we know how this alcohol intake affects our liver. It not only affects our liver, it affects so many other organs in the body, but the liver mostly is affected. So this week we discussed what is alcoholic liver disease. We say that alcoholic liver disease is a condition where there is progressive inflammation in the liver, mostly due to excess alcohol intake. Then we also say that it usually comes about because the liver is the one that has to metabolize the alcohol and break it down, and it does this through so many processes and comes up with a chemical called acetaldehyde, which is a very toxic chemical for the liver and causes so much injury and inflammation in the liver. then we say that alcoholic liver disease can be asymptomatic, so people might not know that they have alcoholic liver disease and not show any signs or symptoms of alcoholic liver disease. But sometimes they might present in the hospital with certain symptoms such as nausea, vomiting, even fever. And they might also have jaundice, which is yellowing of the eyes. They might have ascites, which is swelling of the abdomen. They might also have other symptoms of tremors or shaking in the hands. And sometimes they might even have seizures, which might lead them to be hospitalized in the hospital. And then we also talked about the diagnosis and treatment of alcoholic liver disease. We say that it can be diagnosed in the hospital, but most of the times it can be diagnosed even just from the history of the patient who has excess alcohol use, and who has the signs of alcoholic liver disease. But some tests can be done. Is you check the liver function, and usually the enzymes in the liver function test are very high, and this just shows that the liver is overworking and making sure that the alcohol is broken down. So the other thing that can be done is a scan, an abdominal scan, and this scan can show that the liver is increasing in size. Most of the time the liver starts to increase in size, and so it can show on the scan that the liver is increasing in size. And for the treatment, usually the treatment is for the patient to stop smoking, to stop taking alcohol, to stop drinking alcohol. So that's the major treatment. Reduce on your alcohol intake or stop taking alcohol. Most of the times people can't reduce, they can't regulate. So we just advise them to stop taking the alcohol altogether. And then the other thing is that they need to be given supplements, because alcohol can reduce your supplements in the body, certain nutrients in the body. So they need to be given some supplements, and also to just aid the liver to be able to function again and to be able to regenerate to its normal state. Then people who take alcohol can also be advised to eat healthy diet. So take more protein. More protein is needed because the liver is the one that helps to bring up the protein in the body. And so if it's not functioning well, most of the time they'll have low protein. So they need a high protein diet, or even just normal protein diet, more protein in the body, and also other supplements as well. So today we'll be talking about the complications that come about with excess alcohol usage. So one of the major complications is that it causes what we call ascites. So the swelling in the abdomen that occurs with alcoholic liver disease, and usually it comes about because there is what we call portal hypertension. So the portal hypertension will increase the blood pressure in your blood vessels, mostly because of the way the blood vessels are associated with the liver. So it causes hypertension, portal hypertension. So because of this hypertension, it can cause other complications like cardiomyopathy, so your heart can become affected. It can cause hepatorenal syndrome, where your kidneys are affected because of the liver problem that you have. So your kidneys are affected, your heart is affected, your vessels are affected, and so it might lead to swelling of the entire body. So even your feet might become swollen, your abdomen might become swollen as a result of these complications. But also because of the portal hypertension, and portal hypertension is just the vessels in the abdomen that are associated with the liver. There is so much pressure in that area. So because of that pressure, it can also increase the blood vessels. It can make the blood vessels in the esophagus larger. They become bigger in size. And so because of that, they might start vomiting blood. So we call that hematemesis. And usually, because of this complication, they might have other complications of having anemia, because they're losing so much blood, and so they might need to have blood replaced and have a blood transfusion to replace that blood that they are losing. So those are some of the complications that come about with alcoholic liver disease. Then for the men, most of the times there's an increase in estrogen in the body because of the alcoholic liver disease. So they might have what we call gynecomastia, which is where the breasts become bigger in size, or they start growing. So because of the increase in the estrogen in the body, they start having gynecomastia, which is an increase in the size of the breasts. So you might see them having bigger breasts because of alcoholic liver disease. So these are some of the complications that come about with alcohol usage. Then, to prevent yourself from getting alcoholic liver disease, you need to reduce on how much alcohol you're taking. And if alcohol is becoming addictive for you, and it's something that you can't really regulate, and maybe you might be going through something that is really making you take alcohol, then you need to go for counseling. And also, to prevent yourself from having these complications, you need to do regular checkups. If you know you've been taking so much alcohol, get yourself checked. Go and get yourself checked. You check your liver function, you check how your body is functioning, you check your blood pressure, you check your heart, your kidneys. You need to check your whole body basically, just to see how your body is functioning. So get regular checkups. Also, eat a healthy diet and exercise. Keep yourself healthy by eating healthy food and exercising as well. So you can prevent alcoholic liver disease, and it's possible that you can stop taking alcohol. It's possible that you can reduce on how much alcohol you're taking. If you need more help, make sure that you go to the hospital and talk to someone, talk to the counselors there, talk to the psychiatrist, and they'll be able to guide you and be able to help you. So this week, this is what we have been learning this week. I do hope you have learned something. Please make sure that you take care of your health, take care of yourselves, and don't forget to eat healthy, exercise, and reduce on how much alcohol that you're taking, or stop taking alcohol altogether. So I'll see you again next week, and stay healthy and stay blessed.
Thank you, Dr. Mufaya, there for that update on some of the liver conditions that come with the consumption, uptake, intake. What do you call it, Appius?
It's abuse.
Abuse, right?
Yes, it's abuse. At least,
then you got to abuse.
Not son. Much like it becomes abuse, and those are.
But the doctor said if you can stop consuming alcohol. She did say consume a little bit. So it can be small quantity, it can be big quantity, but what the doctor is just advising us is that sometimes the intake of alcohol, you know, obviously I do get a lot of arguments from some people who usually say, I've taken alcohol my whole life, and I'm 70, I'm 60 something. So what are you telling me? Wow, you are just a small girl. You don't even yet know how long you're going to live. You don't take alcohol. Like myself, I do not take alcohol. But how long are you going to live? We've even seen people who, you know, they don't take alcohol and they die young. And this also happens to people who smoke. I think I've engaged in some discussions where they say, I've been smoking my whole life. I'm how old now? So what are you telling me?
No, I think it's just very important when it's medical, it's based on medical advice. At whatever age you are at, it's better you stop when you're advised to do so, because it's just like driving. At whatever age you can have an accident on the road. So when you're advised by the doctor, it's very important that we heed the advice, because when you are healthy, everything is possible. You can do anything in life when you are healthy as a human being.
Of course, and also they say a healthy nation relies on a healthy people.
Yes.
If you've got, for example, in countries that we know we saw COVID, a lot of people died in those countries. Even their productivity levels went down. Yes. So even in as much as, you know, it can be, it's by chance that, you know, some people have been on these drugs for some time and they live a long life, but it cannot also apply to you just because him is lived long. Cannot be the same way that you can live long. We have different body mechanisms and the things that we do also. Yeah. Some of us don't even exercise, but you find sometimes people do that. They do engage in exercising and stuff like that, which is important for your health. So let's yield to the advice that the doctors give us. They are not here to discourage us, but they're just here to help us live a normal and healthy life. So even right about now, also, we are going to look into the money market. How is it that our local currency is performing against other major convertibles this morning, the Friday on the 22nd of September 2023. Where are we going, Mr. Afias Kaputula? Where is the kwacha running to? It's already past the maturity rate. If you can see there, the Zambian kwacha against the great British pound now buying at 25 kwacha 44 ngwe and selling at 25 kwacha 94 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the euro, they are buying at, pardon me, 22 kwacha 07 ngwe and selling at 22 kwacha 51 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the South African rand, I'm quite disappointed here because we do trade a lot with South Africa, but now it's buying at 1 kwacha 09 ngwe and selling at 1 kwacha 12 ngwe. The Zambian kwacha against the United States dollar, buying at 20 kwacha 72 ngwe and selling at 21 kwacha 13 ngwe. That is the money market for this morning. I don't know where we are going.
Yeah, I think that just shows it's just the issue of the instability in the kwacha continues. And I think as several economists have been alluding to the fact that I think we need to pump up on exports. I think that is a major challenge.
And how can we do that in a country like Zambia, where, you know, the manufacturing sector's contribution even to the GDP of the country and the growth of the country has been very, you know, minimal. So how do we leverage on exports?
Yeah, I think you recall, even this week we had one of the stories that we aired was where the Zambia Institute of Policy Research and Analysis, researcher fellow, one of the researchers there was suggesting that going forward in 2024 we are going to see a rebound in priority sectors like manufacturing, mining and tourism and others, that for the economy to grow. So basically we need to, it should be, we see some more money being pumped in, especially in the manufacturing sector, especially of what the products that we need in the country, because we import even basics which are not supposed to be imported. I think even going forward, I think these are things that are supposed to be changed.
And when you say basics, things like toothpicks.
Yes.
Honestly, a toothpick, when we've got, you know, all this wood around the country, but we are importing
and all those things.
Even a needle. We import a razor blade. We import things like a comb. It's made in Malawi. We are importing those from Malawi. I think Malawi has made it in the area of, you know, plastic and the things they manufacture. Because things like, you know, my boebos, these ones which people like putting on, they are all manufactured from Malawi. A lot of things that have to do with plastics, combs, boebos, stuff like that, are all being manufactured from Malawi, and we are importing those things.
We are importing some of them. And the other contributing factor, I think the experts have agreed, is that we have had a challenge with our major export, which is copper. There have been some issues that you have been seeing, from vendetta issues, just the mining sector. The export of copper has dwindled. So I think that is also a contributing factor.
Maybe just my advice to members of the public there, young people, those who are coming from, you know, universities, you're still in a university, you're still in college. Sometimes when we talk about the manufacturing sector, you know, we have this perspective of it's something big. It should be something, this big thing that I should export. What we don't understand is that the manufacturing sector can even be lowered to something as low as honey.
Yeah.
We have quite a number of people and small companies in Zambia that are actually exporting honey to China, which they're just buying from rural communities in our country. But look at that. You just package it well.
Excuse me.
You have ZAB certified. You can get a chance to go out there and showcase. I think I know a certain guy, Alan. I have been following him, I think, since 2019, when he won some funding over the same issue of honey. What he was doing, he was buying honey in Western Province, rural part of Western Province. He would buy the honey from, you know, the female women there who do honey. And then he would sit, repackage the honey, and he started selling. And I remember at one point when, Zambia was going to China to showcase, like they're going to hold a mini expo there.
Yes.
He was tagged along by government to go and showcase his honey there. And when he went there, China really loved it, and they signed a big contract with him to be exporting the honey there. And I think even in some malls, when we go there, we don't even know that is coming from just a young person. It wasn't like really a big fish. It was just a young person who just thought of an idea. When he was sent there for work, he saw to say there's a lot of honey. And he said, okay, this honey is going to waste. How can I add value? So most of the time when we think of the manufacturing sector, people just think of big things, and they think they don't qualify. Congo is a very big market. Congo is bigger than Zambia, and the market there is broad. You can export nearly anything to Congo. What is just important is the way you package it.
Yeah.
So when we talk about, we need to expand our manufacturing sector, we're not just talking about you coming up with a big project. I think about millions and dollars. That's the only time I can export.
We should not be waiting for big companies to do that. I think even just from that low level, we should have that mindset of creating something, not just consumerism. I think that is what has been one of the major problems.
A lot of maize in the country. And cornflakes are just made from maize. And the good part is what we have in Zambia is non-GMO maize.
Yeah.
You can come up with an idea as a group. You come together, you go to CEC, you ask them to fund you to just buy that machine. Maize is everywhere. You start buying maize. You're adding value to the maize. You have cornflakes. You look for market out there. I think you can export. Tradekins is doing that. We can also do it. What is just important is the way you package it.
Yeah,
we have a lot of groundnuts. You can package your peanut very well and come out to government and say, okay, I want to export. Can you find me a market? Name it. We have all agriculture produce in the country, but why are we failing to export? Why are we waiting for big companies?
Yeah.
Maybe this is just a challenge to young people. For me, inclusive myself as a journalist, I'm not just seated. I can't just say what I'm doing, of course. I'm not just seated, but we need to start adding value and start looking to, other markets and how we can take advantage. That's the only way we are going to develop this country.
Yeah.
Nothing more, nothing less. So even right about now, before we can have our guest in studio, we are going to zoom into some of the stories that made headline in our news yesterday, and we are going to start with the court stories. I don't know what you have, Afias, there.
Yeah, I think what I have first of all is it's involving Chiesa Lungu. I think this is the former president's son. So former President Edgar Lungu's, daughter rather. Former President Edgar Lungu's daughter Chiesa Lungu has urged the Economic and Financial Crimes Court to quash Director of Public Prosecution's application in which the DPP is seeking to seize her properties. Ms. Lungu has told the court that the properties the DPP is claiming to seize are not proceeds of crime as alleged. So this is in a matter where the DPP has commenced proceedings before the Economic and Financial Crimes Court, wanting the court to order Ms. Lungu's property to be forfeited to the state, as it alleges that the properties which they have cited in the notice of motion is tainted.
Okay.
So I think we can just go into that story just up now.
Former President Edgar Lungu's daughter Chiesa Lungu has urged the Economic and Financial Crimes High Court Division to quash the Director of Public Prosecution's application in which the DPP is seeking to seize her properties. In the affidavit of opposition to the application for a non-conviction-based forfeiture order, Chiesa tells the court that the DPP cannot categorize her property as tainted without the court making such a determination. Chiesa submits that one of the properties in question was purchased with the help of her father, Edgar Lungu, who has a traceable source of income and has no doubt that he would not fail to amass money amounting to 3 million kwacha. She also argues that it is not a crime for responsible parents to support their children in the manner her parents did, hence the matter falls within the category of malicious prosecution or abuse of court process. This is in a matter where the DPP has commenced proceedings against her, wanting the court to order Lungu's property to be forfeited to the state, implying that Chiesa will give up on her properties without being subjected to trial. Among the properties that the DPP seek to be forfeited to the state are 3 flats and a pottery belonging to Chiesa. But in her skeleton arguments, Counsel Chiesa says the only reason her property can be forfeited to the state under sections 29 and 31 of the Forfeiture of Proceeds of Crime Act. A property can only be declared tainted if it is connected to a crime which the DPP has not proven. She has since urged the court to quash the DPP's application because it has failed to outline what offence was committed by Chieso in connection with the properties sought to be forfeited to the states, and as such, the court's powers under Section 29 and 31 of the Forfeiture of Proceeds of Crime Act cannot be invoked. Nelson Zulu. For Camnet News, Lusaka.
All right, you are watching Camnet Breakfast, and that story is from the court, where Nelson Zulu was at the court, and that is a daughter for the former president Edgar Lungu Chieso Lungu, who is at the Economic and Financial Crimes Court.
Of course, the DPP there is wanting to take possession of the property that she owns because it is suspected that it is a property acquired through proceeds of crime. But of course, Mr. Lungu's daughter, in case you're wondering, that's the former president Edgar Lungu's daughter, who is appearing before the courts, and the courts are demanding through the DPP that they should have a property that she owns seized because she does not qualify to own that property. But she argues to say, just because my father helped me facilitate for that property does not mean I cannot buy it, or I'm not in the position of buying it, because what my father did is only facilitate for me to buy that property, and I bought. And of course, if he's a president and he's my father, can he not facilitate for me to buy a property? I think we've been seeing this, you know, where a father knows someone and the child is looking for land, and you say, okay, my daughter wants land, can you please help acquire land? So that is an argument where she said he facilitated that I should acquire that property, but it does not mean it is a property reasonably suspected to be of crime, because I am in a position to buy that property. But of course, the Lungu family over the past few months have been crying to say they are being victimized by the government in the way they are being treated, because day in, day night, they are all ever appearing before the court. Remember, almost every member of the family in the former president.
I think they're all at the court.
They are all at the courts, beginning with, you know, there's Dandiso Lungu, who's got a case there. We've got even Madam Esther Lungu, she's got a case there. We had Tasila Lungu, who's got a case there. And others now, we are even hearing of a new person there, the daughter to the former president, equally appearing before the court because she is suspected to have acquired a property reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime. You too can be part of the conversation this morning. Let us know what you think about some of the stories that we are zooming in that made headline in our news yesterday. So also, we have another court issue there where Miles Sampa, the material member of parliament, has begun court proceedings. Yeah,
these are contempt of court proceedings against the leadership of the Patriotic Front. Let me just read the story here. Embattled material member of parliament, Miles Sampa, has filed before the Lusaka High Court to begin contempt of court proceedings against Patriotic Front acting president Given Lubinda and Secretary General Raphael Nakachinda. In a document filed before court, the material lawmaker explains that the duo deferred an order by the court on 9th February 2023 restraining them from acting in the said positions. So, Director, you can just play this story again.
While the faithfuls of the former ruling Patriotic Front continue with the chant of Alebo Lelapo and alleged rebranding, cracks are within which require mending. Wednesday, 20 September 2023, PF supporters flocked to the party secretariat to welcome the new appointments that have been made, to the despair of others, such as Material Member of Parliament Mao Sampa, who has filed before the Lusaka High Court to begin contempt of court proceedings against Patriotic Front acting president Given Lubinda and Secretary General Raphael Nakachinda. In an order of committal before the court, Sampa tells the court that Lubinda and Nakachinda disobeyed the court order made on 9 February 2023, which ordered the duo to restrain from acting as office bearers of the opposition Patriotic Front. In his submissions, Sampa tells the court that according to the order restraining the duo from carrying out party functions, Given Lubinda and Raphael Nakachinda disrespected the court with their alleged continued behavior to be at the helm of the party leadership. The embattled material lawmaker also submits that the disregarding of the court order by the duo undermines the powers of the court, interferes with the process of administering justice, and brings the name of the court into shame. The aggrieved Sampa submits that if anything fit is not done to tame the actions of Lubinda and Nakachinda, the reputation of the court will continue to be plundered in shame. In this matter, Sampa is seeking the court to grant leave of committal against the alleged contemners. Mr. Sampa says granting the order is aimed at maintaining the integrity that is before the court. Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Lusaka.
Hello, we are watching Camnet Breakfast and we're just zooming stories. That is a story from the court where the wrangles in the Patriotic Front have continued, and we have seen that now Material Member of Parliament Mao Samba has again gone back to the courts, where this time he has started contempt of court proceedings against the Patriotic Front acting President Given Lubinda and Secretary General Raphael Nakachinda. This comes at the backdrop of another contempt of court proceedings where there was a restraining order, and now he has gone because we have seen that Raphael Nakachinda has been appointed Secretary General.
Just in case people are wondering, remember earlier this year, or in the middle of the year, not earlier, if I remember very well, it might have been around March, April, the Patriotic Front's aspirant is aspiring for presidency, Mr. Mao Sampa, dragged Mr. Given Lubinda and Nixon Chilangwa, who was by then the acting Secretary General, to court on contempt that they were acting as President and Secretary General when those positions at the moment in the PF do not exist. So when Mr. Mao Sampa sued the two, the court ruled in favor of Mao's and said the two were not acting in accordance with the party constitution. So afterwards, Mr. Given Lubinda, I think Mr. Raphael Nakachinda then held a press briefing where he informed the country that Mr. Given Lubinda is not the acting president. They changed, but instead the acting vice president, because there is no president position at the moment. No one has been voted. And Mr. Nixon Chilangwa was taken to acting Secretary General of the party, yes, in that capacity. So remember, there was no president, there was no secretary general, because those needed to be voted. But what has happened is, despite not having the president, the party went to in a meeting, and they are saying the committee sat, and they decided to appoint Mr. Raphael Nakachinda as the party secretary general. So Mr. Mao Sampa says already there is that court restraining you from purporting as this, because those positions have not yet been filled. So how can you go ahead and start appointing people? Yes, making other appointments. That should be done by a president. So it's decided now to proceed with contempt of court proceedings for Mr. Given Lubinda and Mr. Raphael Nakachinda, who is now the party secretary general, to say what they've done is not in accordance with the party constitution. So it's taken them to court for contempt, and we are yet to see what is going to come out of this. Maybe the question that we should be asking, Afias, is the Patriotic Front's delay to go to the convention to elect a new leader. Do you think this is what is contributing to the wrangles in the Patriotic Front? Does it mean if they elect a new leader today, these wrangles, the inner wrangles in the Patriotic Front, will stop, or maybe they'll deepen? Because, you know, with a lot of people aspiring to be president in the Patriotic Front, there is a probability that, you know, after electing this new leader, others might not welcome him, others may welcome him, and it might bring even more confusion into the party.
No, I think the question, it's 50-50, we can say. For them today to have the convention, I think there should be some fears. We can suspect they have some fears for them not to have the convention, but and we can judge them based on their actions, as they say. If they are giving excuses on why not to have the convention, those might be valid, they might not be valid, but it's a whole lot of I don't know, but we wait to see. What is sure that at the end of this year, it doesn't seem likely that they're going to have a convention. Yeah. And if you have seen it, there's a video where Bowman Lusambo, it has gone viral. He's suggesting that the former president wants to return. If you watch that video. He suggested, of course. I wish we had that clip, we could have played it. Of course, I did see it, and I was laughing yesterday when I was going in the car to say, what is Mr. Lusambo saying here? And of course, he was mentioning to say, the President Edgar Lungu, the former president, in 2016 won against HH. It was 1-0. Yes. In 2016, again, he won. It was 2-0. In 2021, HH won. It's now 2-1. So in 2026, it will be the determining factor. So what does it mean? Is it between HH and, you know, President Edgar Lungu, or is it between HH and the Patriotic Front as a party? So a lot of things happening in the Patriotic Front, the former ruling party, which is now in the opposition, which has failed to go to the convention up to now. So right about now, we
we are going to just allow our guests to settle. But before we can do that, we are going to zoom into one of the last stories that made headline in our news yesterday, where Ngwerere Ward 22 Councillor Adrian Banda has called for collaboration in the fight against criminal gangs, popularly known as junkies, reacting to reports of junkies who are on a rampage in Camnet area of Garden Compound. Mr. Banda says he is engaging the church, parents and other community members to find means of addressing the problem through empowerment sports program, among other things. He says Zambia police is addressing the problem by prosecuting the gangs. He says Zambia police, is addressing the problem, but prosecuting the gangs sometimes proves difficult as no tangible evidence is brought forward and suspects are released, a situation which makes community members claim nothing is being done by the enforcers. Remember, the police have been going around in communities arresting these so-called junkies. But you know where the problem is? Because there is no community member when police arrest who go to complain. Remember, if someone has to be prosecuted, there has to be a complainant. But because we don't have community members who go to complain to say, Abama junkie wananishta ichi na ichi, you'll find that today they arrest them, tomorrow they are released back in the community and they come back to do the same things. That's why we are seeing this not ending. So when you hear in your community that some gangs were, apprehended, just go there and see if there is someone you can identify who committed the criminal element in your community. That way it will be easy for police to prosecute. Remember, police officers do not prosecute people without a case and without a complainant. So that is one of the stories that made headline in our news yesterday. As we allow our guests to just settle in, let us look at the story that made headlines.
Ngwerere Ward 22 Councillor Adrian Banda has expressed displeasure with criminal gangs, popular as junks that are terrorizing residents in his ward. When is the Camnet aired a story where residents in Gardens Canere area of Lusaka were lamenting attacks of criminal gangs that have gone on rampage even in broad daylight. However, in an interview with Camnet News, Mr. Banda says he's aware of the challenge and is working with various stakeholders, including the police and parents, to bring the situation under control.
Through other stakeholders to come on board. So I'm calling upon the NGOs, civil society, to come for our aid so that how we can empower these junkies. Yes, through my office and the office of the WDC, the Honorable MP office, we have taken 4 or 5 junkies to acquire training skills, so which we are happy. So that these are our brothers who can transform them.
Mr. Banda since dispelled assertions that the police in the area are releasing junks from police cells after detention.
Once these people are apprehended or arrested, they need to produce an evidence what they found with it. If he found with a weapon, that person will be taken to the court, because there is a proper evidence to say this is what we have found with. Or meaning that if they are found in an act, stabbing or disturbing the peace within the ward, then they've got those proper evidences. So once you see that these people have been released, doesn't mean that the police are not working. No, it's because they've got no proper evidences to show to the court.
For Camnet TV News, Afias Kaptula, Lusaka.
Labour did not defer the increase in the minimum wage to early 2024. What would have happened to the cleaning companies is that some of them would have been forced to downsize, because if the increase had eaten up into the profits and into the running costs of these contracts, the cleaning companies would have had no alternative but to downsize. Hence, we are happy that the government has thought for the entrepreneur by making sure that they defer this, even if it has caused injury to the cleaner whose cost of living has gone up. But because everything has to balance, if we have little money, the company has to survive and the workers have to survive. Hence, when government feels for us, the entrepreneurs, we say thank you, and by this we know that when that time comes, we may even increase the numbers of employees that we have if we are given an opportunity to grow our businesses.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to inform you and the nation that the tender for the printing and delivery of ballot papers, ballot paper posters, blind voter templates, and announcement forms for the Commission on a period of 3 years will be issued tomorrow, Friday, 22nd September 2023. Please note that this tender is open to all eligible bidders, that is both local and international. The tender will be administered following the rules under the Open International Competitive Bidding Procedures as provided for in the Zambia Public Procurement Act No. 8 of 2020 and Procurement Regulations of 2022. As a Commission, we wish to encourage all eligible bidders to participate. A bidding document may be obtained from the Zambia Public Procurement Authority EGP system upon payment of a non-refundable fee of 1,000 kwacha of the US dollar equivalent.
There you have it. Those were some of the stories that made headline in our news. Earlier, we did zoom into the story where the area councillor for Garden Compound did mention that he is engaging several stakeholders, among them the church and other people, to see how is it that they can help the so-called junkies, the gangs that have been terrorizing the community. So this particular issue requires a collective effort of everyone in the community, including those of us watching this particular program. We cannot end gangs, we cannot end junkies. The problem that comes with it, if at all we just fold our hands and leave this to law enforcers. Law enforcers can play their part, but we can also play a part as community members in helping these young people, identify who they should be and, do better things. Sometimes these junkies, it's not that, they want to do that, but they don't know where to start from. So now we have CDF, which has been given where people can do skills. If you identify a junkie in your community, it's just important, you approach them, ask them if you can help them enroll. Others, it's just not the issue of knowing how to enroll in these skills development centers. That's why they are just seated there. Others, you find they are good, brilliant young people. They've completed their, school, grade 12, they've got the certificates, but just along the way, things didn't go very well. So maybe by helping them apply for some of these skills development, linking them sometimes even to, these small jobs where they can be doing something and earning something. I think it's better.
Yeah, it can help in terms of reducing in terms of these criminal activities, because we find that they wake up in the morning, they don't have what to do. What is next? They group themselves in groups and start picking people's stuff like that, which is unfortunate. Yeah,
very unfortunate incidents there. Then we also zoomed into a story where the ECZ, that is Electoral Commission of Zambia, have actually opened the bidding for the printing of ballots, papers, among other election materials between now and 2026 for 3 years. And both international and local people have been encouraged to ensure that, you bid for these particular tenders. Let us take tenders, let us take advantage of this opportunity. For those of us who are running these businesses, just try to bid. You might not know what might happen. Let us not always leave this to the international community to come and sweep even the small resources in our country. Let us apply. Just give it a try. You might not know what might happen. So too much of the talking, and we are going to move into our conversation this morning. Remember, the coming back of Vendetta has brought a lot of joy to the people on the Copper Belt. On the other hand, we've seen some critiques, such as opposition leaders who have criticized the decision by government to allow Vendetta come back to Zambia. So this morning we are discussing, among other things, reflections on Vendetta return. Will Zambia profit from this deal? And in studio, I am joined by the Executive Director of Afrinet. Afrinet is Inter-African Governance Network, Mr. Maurice Malambo. Sir, good morning.
Well, thank you so much. Good morning.
We are glad that you can join us on set this morning.
Sure, always a pleasure to be here.
Of course. So I am Prudence Chota. I know we've met on several occasions. My colleague there is Mr. Afias Kaputula. Yes, yeah, of course, the man from the other side of the world. I don't know which one he originated from. And we are looking. We are looking forward, yeah, of course, to having a wonderful discussion, Mr. Malambo, with regards to this topic this morning. I know yesterday you did issue a statement where you spoke on a number of things regarding this particular topic, where you were advising the opposition to, stop condemning this particular move that has been taken by the government. And you gave an example of how this whole issue has come about. So we are just going to go a little back on the issue of Zambia and Vendetta and where we are today, just to begin our conversation. So, Inter-African Governance Network, what do you do? Who are you and what do you do? Maybe the people who are watching us this morning would like to know what you do.
The Inter-Africa Governance Network is a policy dialogue platform. We give stakeholders an opportunity to discuss matters of policy in the social, economic, and political arena of public life. Basically, we look at the social, economic, and political governance matters in the country and outside the country.
Oh, who are your members? Who are the people you work with?
It is a membership-based, a voluntary membership-based organization from across the country in terms of grassroots membership. Then we have a board, we have a skeleton secretariat, and I'm heading this, the secretariat, and I'm the founder of the organization. Basically to give people an opportunity to reflect on matters of public policy in the social, economic, and political governance of the country.
Interesting there. Just getting back to the topic this morning, 2005, when Zambia and Vendetta signed this deal, where we decided to say, okay, let's privatize the sector and let's give KCM to Vendetta. What were some of the arguments that we made then that have, influenced the decision that has been made in the now, so that people can understand, even when you say, Vendetta is the owner of the mine and what the Zambian government has done is the right thing because this is what was stipulated in the law. So what is the argument that was there between Zambia and Vendetta in 2005?
Okay, first of all, let's look at the mining sector. We flip it back. Prior to 1991, the mines were in the hands of the state. Then following the change of government from UNIP to the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy did not just usher the era of political pluralism, but they also brought about economic pluralism to mean that they were to promote both the private sector and public sector investment. So following the Privatization Act of 1994, the mines were then privatized or moved from the state hands into private hands. So Mopani and other mines were then put in private hands or mixed investment between private hands and public hands. Public hands representing the Zambia Consolidated Copper Mine Investment Holding. This is the share structure even existing in Mopani. Now, in KCM, before the Natural Resources came in, there was a mining giant that owned the mine. For reasons, I will not mention that mine. So, they were in the country for close to 10 years. Then they pulled out their investment, stating that Konkola Copper Mine had reached a junk status. There was no mining that could come out or could be done at Mopani. Now, this is an international mining conglomerate stating the fact that the mine had reached a junk status.
At Yapwa.
Lifespan, the lifespan, the mine had expired its lifespan. So there was no mining activity that could be done there. So the mine stayed for some time without activity. Now, you'll be interested to know that Konkola Copper Mine is one of the most wettest mine in the world. So what that means is that when you do not conduct any mining activity for some time, the mine gets flooded. Then the machinery gets obsolete or dysfunctional. So this is basically what happened prior to Vendetta Resources. So when Mwanawasa came to power, under the leadership of Mwanawasa and President Magande now, who was then Minister of Mines, they decided to float the mine for another investor. But because the investor who was there was an international mining giant, what they said to say the mine had reached a junk status was then now taken as an expert opinion. So that made the bidding process to be more compromised. In other words, there was no investor who was interested in Mopani, in KCM, sorry, except for Vendetta Resources. So we're able to attract Vendetta Resources. And now, being a single bidder.
The one they talk about to say we gave them at a peanut.
Yes. This is basically why the mine was sold at $25 million, because there was no competition.
Wow.
Yeah. It's like you've advertised a vehicle in the paper. Let's have bidders. There's no one who is interested in that vehicle. Then someone says, oh, sir, you are the only bidder. My offer is 25,000 kwacha. Yet you are looking at maybe 100,000 kwacha. So you have to decide either to sell it or not to sell it. But then Zambia needed an investor. This is how the mine was then sold to Vendetta at $25 million. Now, from 2004 to 2005, when the Vendetta Resources took over the mine, they have consistently invested in the mine to build an investment portfolio from $25 million to $3 billion as at 2019, when the mine was repossessed from them. Now, they've built a workforce of 13,000 direct jobs and an additional indirect jobs in terms of contractors and suppliers. That $3 billion worth of investment is representative of a brand new state-of-the-art smelter worth $700 million, plus new investment into the Konkola Deep Mining Project worth $973 million. The point I'm making is that it is not a small investment. You are basically looking at an investor who's been in the country from 2005 to 2019 for 14 uninterrupted years. Now, within these 14 years, we've been interested to know that Zambia has had investors who've come to invest in the mining sector. Within a short time, they've pulled out. Yet, Vendetta Resources has maintained its investment from 2005 through to 2019, when the mine was grabbed from them. The point I'm making is that 14 years has not been smooth sailing on the part of Vendetta Resources. It has not been smooth sailing on the part of the Zambian government or the people of the Copper Belt. However, you have an investor who has shown a sense of commitment, building an investment portfolio from $25 million to $3 billion. Within that 14 years, Vendetta Resources has spent, in terms of corporate social responsibility to the tune of $200 million. You'd be interested to know that in the history of FAZ, Football Association of Zambia, Vendetta Resources becomes the pioneer of corporate investment into FAZ from 2004 to from 2006 to 2011. Vendetta Resources was sponsoring the Football Association of Zambia Premier League throughout, and sponsoring two teams separately, Mchanga Rangers and Konkola Blades, leading to Zambia winning the AFCON for the first time in 2012. That is just sports. They have invested in education, healthy, and community livelihoods. But then, like any other investor, you have misgivings or problems. Now, flip it back. When they came in 2005, there was an agreement, like any other agreement when you are getting an investor. Now, in that agreement, there was what is referred to as the arbitration clause. The arbitration clause simply states that when you differ, when both parties differ, and they feel that things are not moving the way they're supposed to move, or the agreement is not being honored, both parties have to go for arbitration. Arbitration is where you engage a neutral person to look at the agreement and to look at what is obtaining. Either any of the parties has abrogated the agreement. So the previous administration of the Patriotic Front, what they did, they felt that Vendetta Resources was in breach of the agreement. So they grabbed the mine from them, from Vendetta Resources. Now, remember, in 2005, when you consummated the agreement, there was a clause for arbitration. They ignored that clause. They just grabbed it. Then Vendetta Resources took the matter to court in the Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal ruled that in view of the agreement entered into in 2005, both parties were tied to this agreement in respect to the arbitration clause. So can you go for arbitration? So the Court of Arbitration was engaged in South Africa. They ruled in favor of Vendetta Resources. So from a legal point of view, on 2 occasions, you've had judgments that are in favor of Vendetta Resources. Now, when the UPND came to power in 2001, or after the 2001 elections, they then made a decision to move the matter out of court and discuss, because legal issues can take 5-10 years. You're just in court. But then, this is a mine. It is not like a field, Ivala. That this year we will not plant, and the next year we will not plant. So if you are firecula, it's adding nutrition to the soil. Now, you are looking at one of the Konkola copper mine, which is one of the wettest mines in the world. When you do not do a proper job of care and maintenance, then the mine risks flooding and the machinery risks getting obsolete or dysfunctional. When that happens, the value of the investment then is compromised, or the value of the mine drops. Now, just this year, 2023, the Nchanga smelter, which is worth $700 million, a brand new smelter, has been shut twice just this year. The first one being in January, and the second one being in June, July. According to the president of the Mines Workers Union, Mr. Joseph Chewe, is on record saying the shutdowns at Konkola, at Nchanga smelter was as a result of poor maintenance. Now, if that is true, it simply means that actually the investment and liquidation in the state hands, both under the Patriotic Front and the United Party for National Development, was actually on the trajectory of erosion, or no proper care and maintenance was being done. Therefore, the mining experts and legal experts that we have consulted as an organization on this matter, they have said that in an event that the matter proceeded in the courts of law, that is, when the Zambian government lost out in South Africa, they appealed in the Court of Arbitration in UK, London. Now, in an event that any one of the party would definitely lose out. So in an event that the decision is made against the Zambian government, you'll be looking at compensating Vendetta Resources to the tune not less than $4 billion. Now, whether we have that money or we don't have that money, is it worthwhile to compensate an investor to the tune of $4 billion? Certainly the answer is no. Whether you have the money or you don't have the money, if you have the money, you can use that money for something else. So it was just wise for the government and Vendetta Resources to move the matter out of court and discuss, settle the differences, so that, one, you save on resources for litigation, you also save the mine, you prevent the mine from getting flooded and the machinery getting obsolete. I have told you today, as an organization, will not be caught unaware if along the line it is discovered that actually some of the machinery has gotten, is dysfunctional, because 4 years is pretty a long time. Now, those are just some of the legal gymnastics or the legal mechanics that really matters were largely in favor of Vendetta Resources, because the law right from the outset was not followed. So we hope that the deliberations that took almost 2 years under the United Party for National Development administration has taken into account, based on what the Minister of Mines and the President in Parliament stated, that we were trying to negotiate the best possible deal. So we hope that all those issues have been taken into account.
Mr.
Fundamentally,
let me just maybe just come in a little bit. Where we're coming from, what you've mentioned,
yes,
we know the reason why the Patriotic Front took that step,
yes,
is because even Vendetta did not follow some of the arguments that they made. And they continued saying for years they were operating on losses. And the question that we are asking today is what will change now if at all they come back? So now this brings us to the question that we are asking this morning. Will Zambia, do you think Zambia is going to profit from this deal, considering that for 14 years Vendetta was running on losses? Are we going to profit now?
Look, very good question. I've heard members of the UPND, in particular the Minister of Mines, saying that this is a new Vendetta Resources. There's no new Vendetta Resources, they're just Vendetta Resources. I want to be frank about it. What ought to change is the relationship between government, the ruling party, and Vendetta Resources. Information that is there is this. Ruling parties that have been benefiting from these business entities in terms of funding of political parties. So much that if you are to reflect the 2011 general election, you discover that the ruling party then had more resources, regalia, to the extent where if itenge ama t-shirt yambi basafikako nembwa. Understand? They were swimming in money. This money is believed to have been sourced from investors on the copper belt. And Vendetta Resources is certainly one of the entities that have been funding the ruling party. It is the same thing even under the Patriotic Front. So much that those under the Patriotic Front, because there was increased cadreism, so much that cadres would walk into KCM demanding for certain contracts, and on certain contracts are not delivering. Now, if on some contracts you don't deliver, but the investor has paid you, this same investor has to fund, to contribute to funding the political parties. Where will the profits come from? So at the end of the day, you are operating in a very compromised position, because it even becomes difficult for the technocrats in the Ministry of Mines to engage the mine, or the technocrats in the Ministry of Labor. When there's a labor issue, it becomes difficult for them, because these mining conglomerates are contributing to keeping the ruling party afloat. So issues of regulation, issues of ensuring that the agreements or contents of the agreements are followed through become compromised as a result of a close interaction between the ruling party and the investors. It is not just Vendetta Resources. Even other business entities outside the mining sector. I will not make mention. If you follow through during the tenure of Edgar Lungu, you saw some people, some companies going down as a result of ZRA enforcing tax issues, to mean that a particular investor had stopped paying tax because his friend had become a president. This president is out of power. There's now a new president in the name of Edgar Lungu. That's why now you saw ZRA enforcing tax issues on this. But it simply means that, the interaction between the ruling party, ministers, and the key operatives of government with the business community makes oversight difficult, makes technocrats in the ministries of labor, ministry of mines difficult to perform their role. If we talk about Vendetta Resources to say they're a bad investor, I'll tell you this: you're a journalist. You can do what is called investigative journalism. Get on the ground, check the investment profile of Vendetta Resources from 2005 through to 2019. Check what they have done on the copper belt in terms of corporate social responsibility. You find that the corporate social responsibility alone, Vendetta Resources has spent over $200 million. It simply means Vendetta Resources was making money. If they're able to invest $200 million, then it simply means that this money was being generated from somewhere. If Vendetta Resources was able to pay in terms of statutory obligations to the tune of $1 billion from the time they came in 2005 through to 2019, they've paid to the National Treasury in terms of statutory obligations to the tune of over $1 billion. Where was the money coming from? Was it coming from their pockets? Certainly not. It was money that was generated in the business. Yeah. So it means that this mine is viable. All you need to do is to put in place measures that would ensure agreements are followed through, and measures that would ensure non-interference of political parties into the general running of these mines, not just Vendetta Resources, but also other business entities.
The call that, opposition, or rather a call that political parties in the country should start disclosing their source of financing. Do you think this is the right time we now need to implement this particular call to ensure that we don't have issues where certain investors are pumping money in a certain political party?
Exactly. I don't know why people are allergic to transparency. If your funding has no issues, why shouldn't you disclose? It is not just local influence, but it also curtails external influence where certain business entities fund the political party, and when you form government, they expect certain favors. For instance, tax issues and other favors. So when the ruling party begins to go to bed with investors, enforcement of laws becomes difficult, the technocrats are rendered useless, issues of profitability becomes difficult, transparency in terms of declarations. We hope that the newly formed Mineral Commission under this administration has taken into account some gaps of transparency in the declaration of minerals that are leaving the country. That issue of transparency started under the Mwanawasa administration, Peter Magande as Minister of Finance then, when they formed what was called the Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative. That was meant to generate a sense of transparency in terms of what is leaving the country as minerals, and what is it that we are benefiting from these minerals. So when you look at the beneficiency, you should not limit it to Vendetta Resources, because Vendetta Resources is not the only mine conglomerate. No, there are other players in the economy. Are we trying to say that these other players are compliant and Vendetta Resources is not compliant? No. When you make a law, you don't make laws for an individual. For instance, if you're going to make a law for Vendetta Resources, then Vendetta Resources says, okay, fine, we're going to Congo, we're going to Namibia. What would be the net effect of that law? So we have laws in this country. These laws are not meant for KCM, they're not meant for Mopani or any other. We just have investment policies which must apply to all. And where these policies or laws which must apply to all will only apply to the extent that key institutions such as ZEMA, Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Mines are not compromised. How do you prevent that? Is to avoid a close interaction between the ruling party and the business community. So as an organization, we are monitoring the UPND. They have made a very good position. For instance, when they came in, President Hakainde Hichilema is on record having said that UPND will be a separate entity from the government, and therefore UPND is going to generate resources on its own, or resources of its own. We will not get resources from government, we will not draw resources from the business community. That position is good. It prevents a situation where the business community begin now to fund the ruling party. And when they fund the ruling party, these are not charitable institutions. These have come to make profit. And each way they are giving you, they have to account for it. And that is going to be deducted from the profit declaration. And that's when now you begin to see investors cutting corners in terms of evading tax, in terms of that. So the issue is in monitoring. So how do you monitor? First of all, you must not monitor from a compromised position.
I like your position, Mr. Malambo, when you say we are watching to see that my UPND, just the way Mr. Malabo here is watching to ensure
we're watching
that the things that you are saying are being, applied. My colleague here.
I'll tell you this. We have, for instance, one member of UPND from the Central Committee, as a national leader from UPND, who is said to have been given shares in an investment owned by a Chinese. I'll not make mention of that name because we are watching. Why not give those shares to Mr. Kaputula? Why not this Chinese give shares to this beautiful lady, Prudence? Why him? Is because it's connected to the ruling party.
And why not him at the same time?
No, why not him? It's because it's connected to the ruling party. And that's where compromise starts from, where people who are supposed to speak for the people, they then now begin to side with the investor. Technocrats in the ministries who are supposed to enforce the law, it is just a phone call. Or such that, so don't do that. These people have created employment for our people. And at times, technocrats are then accused of working with the opposition in trying to orchestrate despondency in the economy by some people losing jobs. So we must not just position ourselves in terms of benefiting from these investments in terms of employment. No, it must go beyond employment to our people. We must see that our people are paid, the contractors are paid, the suppliers are paid.
Okay, I think, Mr. Malabo, you have given us quite an in-depth analysis of the vendetta issue.
The thing was, we didn't even know.
Yeah,
and I'm sure a lot of
people
people who are watching didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Very insightful.
No, at the end of this, because of the politics that goes on, our clarion call to the Zambian people is this, more especially the politicians. First of all, we respect their positions. They have to give checks and balances to the current administration or any other administration that comes in. But at the end of the day, they must never politicize everything. Move politics from the economy. Because at the end of the day, people benefit from the economy. They don't eat politics as much as politics can influence the economy. But people don't eat politics. So it must not just be politics throughout, politics throughout, politics throughout. No. Provide credible checks and balances to the government and provide solutions. But there must be a level of sincerity. You cannot have a situation where everything that government does is wrong. This was the same approach under the Patriotic Front, where whatever PF did was wrong. Whatever now UPND is doing is wrong. After the elections, must be able to rise above sectarian interest and look at national interest, rally behind a government of the day to provide checks and balances, to provide solutions. But at the end of the day, on matters really that are not political, there's no need to politicize the coming back of Vendetta Resources. We must just ensure that, like Vendetta Resources Limited, like any other investor, they observe the agreement, like any other investor.
Yeah, I think you have just overtaken my question there. I just wanted to ask you to say what should be the role of the opposition in this coming back of Vendetta. I think what I can ask you is just how do you rate the debate around the return of Vendetta? Especially we've seen that many people have continued to react, including opposing political parties. We have seen EIZ yesterday, they were welcoming the return of Vendetta and also urging for adherence in terms of the practice of engineering in the country.
Yes. I got a position that was correct, that first of all, the Engineering Institute welcomed the return of the data resources, and they're stating that they need to observe the ethics of engineering in whatever they do, to mean that they have to employ qualified people and also ensure that those qualified people do operate within the confines of engineering ethics. That is good. But then the spotlight must not just be on one investor. The spotlight must be on all the investors in the sector and beyond, because you just be not being unfair, for lack of a better term. Other investors may be scot-free because they're not in the spotlight. So Vendetta Resources also, now that have come back and under this climate, they must understand to say that people who are not happy about them and the people who are happy about them. So they must ensure that they do what's supposed to be done, unless in critical areas where out of human frailty, certain things are not done right, and where they're not done right, you quickly correct them, engage stakeholders, engage the government, engage the people, and say, this was the position. For instance, mining accidents, they happen anywhere in the world, But that does not mean now that Vendetta Resources is under spotlight, then they will run a clean investment. There will be lapses here and there, but they must ensure that those lapses are avoided as much as possible. I don't know if you can allow the conversation also to look at calls by some people to nationalize the mines.
Of course. Please, you can contribute to that, even as we, come to the dying end of the program. I know we're running out of time, but just maybe a comment on that one before we wrap up.
Yeah, I've heard organizations, without making mention, political parties in particular, Ingatwaisa who shall take over the mines. Those sentiments are wrong, because it is not the first time, or it will not be the first time that Zambia will take over, will have state-owned mines. Under the UNIP, the mines were in state hands. It is the failure and misgivings of that kind of economic order that ushered the era of a mixed economy through the 1994 Privatization Act, where now the mines were put in private hands. What we should be talking about now is to increase our stakeholdership as a state in these existing mines, to increase our investment as state in Mopani, our stake in KCM, our stake in Kalumbila, to do that within the confines of the law. So that now demands a comprehensive mining policy in which, one, you'd increase your stakeholdership in these mines within the confines of the law by increasing your investment, because you don't just wake up and say, we want to have 40% in this mine. You want to have 40%, do you have capital? And also we must open up these investments where you can have stakeholdership as a state, but as private people, they can also buy shares through the stock exchange for the citizens to participate in these investments. These are issues that we should be talking about. We should be talking about reforming the financial sector, where citizens can go to the bank and borrow money to invest in the mining sector. For instance, there's illegal mining that is going on involving sugilite, lithium, uranium, etc., etc., etc. That goes to show the fact that there's some rigidity on the part of the local people to get, first of all, licenses. Why should it be that our people are involved in illegalities? It simply means that the process of getting a license, the process of getting financing, they would rather do illegalities where they're conniving with foreign people to do the mining. So let's audit the mining sector comprehensively. Where is the problem? And among the problems is that as a nation, we've not done a proper job in as far as what is called geological mapping is concerned. Geological mapping is basically to know what minerals are in Southern Province, what minerals are in Kalomo, what minerals are in Eastern Province. Instead, the government is caught unaware each time the 2, 3, 4 miners, illegal miners, begin to mine gold in Impika. That's when you realize, oh, there's some gold in Impika. So you must do a proper audit in terms of what minerals are in what locality, so that you monitor movements of mining activity around those areas and enforce regulation. But that regulation must not amount to restrictions on the part of the local people. You must have a deliberately policy that positions our people in the mining sector. Not file pelela fie mugu ifwe abena Zambia kuwa fie bashimaini. No, but we sobali bashimaini. Na wewe nuwe shimaini. And this mine, yes, ukarauto wa fie mawe. And this mine is owned by foreigners.
Mr. Malambo, on that particular topic, I know this is a broad topic that I know we will try to allocate time to it, where we are going to talk about illegal mining and how is it that we can improve that for our own local people. I know if we start talking about it now, we might go in another hour, and we just realized that we've actually run out of time. But we will extend an invitation. It can be next week, it can be another week, where we are going to unpack issues that have to do with, small-scale miners, illegal mining, and how is it that our own people can benefit from these natural resources. So this, of course, has been the Camnet TV Breakfast Show. On set, I was joined by my colleague, Athias Kaptula, and my guest, full of information, full of data. We've gotten to learn a lot of things that we didn't even know about KCM and Mopani Athias through Mr. Maurice Malambo. He is the Executive Director of Afronex, Inter-African Governance Network, and of course they have been prominent in offering checks and balances to the current administration. And also remember, they said binocular, they are zooming in on what is happening under the United Party for National Development. So catch us on another episode, exciting episode next week, same time and same hour, when we feed on breakfast. Remember, Friday we deal with business for breakfast. So this has been your host, Prudence Jota. This is where we have to wrap up the program. Till next time, it's bye for now and God bless you.